right now. All right, man. I always have to switch into mode for this. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. Mars Talks podcast. I am your host, Jayton. It's me. Same dude as every other podcast that you've been listening to on this channel. And today I have a guest or a co-host. I don't know what you call it. With me. So you say hi.
What up? I'm Emilio, and yeah.
Yes, this is Emilio. So yeah, I mean, he hit me up on Snapchat, wanting to be on the podcast, and I said sure. Scheduled a date. So if you're listening to this and you want to schedule a date, my Instagram is Jason Salisbury. My Instagram is the Mars King. Keeping up with the whole Mars theme. Yeah. So, once again, I said it in the last video, but thanks for what was it, 10 subscribers? That's a milestone, I guess. I didn't expect to get that many subscribers that quickly, especially hearing what I hear about YouTube and how it works. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. So, today we're going to be talking about racism and just the landscape of at least the United States and how we handle that sort of stuff and how we each react to it and our opinions on it and maybe even some anecdotal stuff. We'll see. But that's what's going on. Let's get started. So I'll let you take it away with the premise you want to start with, Amelia.
So I just wanted to talk about I guess my experiences with it. Like me, I'm Mexican, and so I feel like I don't think it's hard to explain, but obviously I feel like everybody has their own experiences with racism, but I don't know, but damn, I just lost my train of thought.
All
um,
right. I mean, you want to keep going?
yeah, that's fine, that's fine.
All right.
I'm just this is just weird. I've never been recorded like this.
Yeah, and it was weird for me at first too.
Yeah, but me, I moved to Michigan when I was 12, so seventh grade. That's when I moved here,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to live in Kansas.
All right.
And over there in Kansas, where the town that I lived in, it was the majority was Mexicans, and then blacks, and then whites, and then some Asian people. But the majority was Mexicans, and so for me, I never really had a problem with anyone, obviously, with their race, or nobody really had anyone. Nobody had a problem with each other's race. It was all if someone had a problem with each other, it would be just because the other person is a shitty person or whatnot. But it was never due to racism. Racism.
Yeah.
But once I moved to Michigan, it was kind of like a culture shock because the school that I moved to, it was it's about 45 minutes away from Belleville. It's
All
called
right.
Harrison Township.
Okay.
And it was a culture shock because there was no Mexicans at all. I was the only Mexican in the entire school. And it was just a bunch of white people and black people and obviously Arabics and things like that. So it was just different, and everybody treated me weird. It was my name wasn't Emilio anymore. It was just Mexican. That's what everybody called me.
Mm.
And that was and honestly, I never even knew anything about racism until I moved to Michigan. And so it was so weird. And yeah, people just called me Mexican. They'd always tell me to speak Spanish and be ignorant about it. And at the time, I didn't really let it get to me. Like it was new to me, so I was kind of ignorant with it too.
You're caught off
And
guard.
so yeah, like yeah, I didn't know like what to do, and so I just did like when they said speak Spanish, like I just spoke Spanish. Like that's all. I mean, I don't know. Like, and to be honest, when I was a kid, I was kind of a pussy, and so
I mean,
um,
you said what was the name of this school?
Lance Cruz.
All right. And so at Lance Cruz, well, I mean, like, just like if you were to percentage out, the ethnicities, what were the percentages?
I would say in that school it was mainly whites.
All right, like
Like,
50%.
phew,
I mean, just like a rough estimate.
I would say because like it was mainly whites, but like blacks were like a really close. Like obviously there was a bunch of black people too, but
Okay.
I mean I would say I don't know maybe like around 40% whites and honestly like 40% whites and 40% blacks and then like
Everybody else.
yeah yeah and then also like because there was also a lot of Arabics too,
Okay. Yeah.
but just like the majority of the school was just a bunch of whites.
All right. So, I mean, I kind of get your play. I guess from a different perspective though, or a different, you know, with a different journey though.
Mm.
For me, it's it's never been a problem of racism rather than just, I guess I would say, stereotyping, I guess.
Oh, okay.
So, if you're hearing my voice, you don't exactly envision a black guy, I don't necessarily sound quote unquote black.
Mhm.
Like you know, so when people's first impression of me, when I talk is um they can be caught off guard sometimes. I know, whenever I get over the phone with somebody for the first time, like if we're texting or stuff like that. I try to warn them first. I don't sound how I look.
Mhm.
Um, I've always lived in Belleville, and Belleville has been pretty mixed. I guess I would say. I mean, relative to what I know.
Mhm.
Um, uh, I guess you know because of where I was. I was I I was a very intelligent kid, and because of that, they put me in the gifted and talented program, GT.
Okay.
And if you were in GT, you know that it's mostly white, or it was mostly like white for a long, long time,
Mhm.
um, up until seventh grade when it wasn't GT anymore, and it was just what you would just call it honors.
Okay.
So I had always been around white people. There was very few black people that I saw on a daily basis that I would consider my friends.
Okay.
And because of that, I was kind of this outlier to a lot of people. Um, I, didn't look like everybody else. I obviously wasn't the same skin color as them. My hair wasn't the same as them. And so there was a lot of ignorance about, um, I wouldn't say black people, but who I was.
Mhm.
Um, like, I remember, um, one of my friends, this was a long, long time ago, and I'm definitely not holding it against them. I doubt they even remember saying this. I don't, it's not like I think about this on a daily basis. And, I only remember this because of, we're talking about this. But I remember he, like, grabbed some of my hair, because, I have hair on my head,
Yeah.
and he looked at it, and he was like, ew, your hair is like pubes. And I didn't know how to react to that.
Yeah.
Like, it's and it's a part of it's just, we're kids and we're saying whatever is coming to our mind, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
that's not exactly something you just say to somebody. So I
Yeah.
mean, I didn't really know how to react to that. I obviously, didn't, you know, go off about it or get mad about it or anything. It was kind of just like, okay, that's kind of weird to say to me. It's a bit, I, you know, but the thing is that because I had always been around white people or predominantly around white people, white friends, white teachers, I mean, not necessarily in a predominantly white school. I mean, if you know Belleville, it's very, very mixed between black people. But and GT and honors for the most part, it was mostly white. And so when I encountered a black person, a black kid, they would say I don't sound black or I don't act black or things like that. And to hear that, it kind of hurts, to say for somebody to essentially insinuate that you're not a real black person.
Yeah.
Or you're not your real ethnicity. And you're not actually a part of that culture or whatever it is, And it's not like I value culture above, who I am as a person, but it's just like, that's not cool. That doesn't that doesn't feel good. So like, I remember, I think it was either sophomore year or freshman year. I met this dude. And okay. So I met him so this is what happened. It was freshman year track because I was talking to my friend and I was, doing like this skater boy voice. I was like, gnarly dude. And this dude heard me and he was like, whoa. And this black kid heard me. He was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You don't sound black or whatever. And like, he just thought it was the most entertaining thing ever that I sounded, not black. And like, I remember I was like, okay, yeah, okay, whatever, I'll entertain him, it's no big deal. But I, would walk down the hall one day and, I'd encounter him and he'd be like, and he'd, be on the same, you don't sound black sort of thing, laughing about it, thinking it was funny. And I mean, I'm pretty sure his intention wasn't to like insult me. And I wasn't really insulted. I was just bothered by it. But, like, he wanted to show his friends who were also black that I didn't sound black.
Yeah.
It was very – it was uncomfortable,
Yeah.
Like, or like I know sophomore year I was in art class and this dude, he was using, like, some heavy black slang. I couldn't even tell you what he was saying. It was like heavy black slang. Like it took me a while to actually decipher what he was saying. And I don't even know why he was using heavy black slang because it's not like he uses that every day. He talks just like everybody else.
Yeah.
But I was like, what are you saying? Because he was talking to me. And he was like, you must not be black or something, just stuff like that. It feels like if you don't have these certain things about you, that you're alienated by your own, ethnicity or people of your own ethnicity and their culture. It's really weird, and it's not like I couldn't get along with anybody. It's not like I ever had any beef with anybody. I'm somebody that gets along with everybody pretty well.
Yeah.
If I don't like you, then I'm not gonna bother talking to you. But I get along with everybody. So it's a bit weird, hearing somebody say you aren't black. Like even my own dad. Like I remember I was at my grandma's house, and like my whole family was there, and we were like having some sort of family get together or something, some sort of family function, some sort of family event. And my dad, I don't know if he was like tipsy or drunk or something. I don't know. He could have just been completely sober. It doesn't matter. But he was like telling jokes and stuff like that. And he sets up this joke, and it goes something like this. And he said, okay, and my dad's name is, or his nickname is Jay. So he says he's at work and he's crying, and his coworker comes up to him and says, Jay, what's wrong, And he looks up at his coworker and says, my kids aren't black. And when I heard that, that really unsettled me. It kind of hurt me a little bit, to especially hear that from your own dad.
Yeah.
And like everybody, my cousins were laughing at me, my family just thought it was funny, and I didn't appreciate that, obviously, I never said anything about it to him, and he doesn't know that it hurt me the way it did, but, he said that, and he actually said it later to me, like maybe a year later, actually, but he would say, we're having a family talk about, the 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 climate and of America and just being black in America and stuff like that and blah blah blah. The stuff that at least I don't really care to talk about for whatever reason. But he's talking about how he told his mom, my grandma, that me and my sister were not black. And that really hurt me, It's like but he was saying that it was a good thing because I knew how to act around white people and I knew how to do this and I knew how to do that, and it was almost like he was demeaning everybody else, which also was a bit unsettling to me. But yeah, I mean, my plight isn't necessarily racism, you know, but it's just ignorance and insensitivity as to who somebody is,
Yeah. Like, well, I mean, I guess I could continue. Unless you had something else to say.
Oh no, yeah, you can go. I was done.
Okay. Like one time, or like actually a couple of times, I would have this problem. It was when I was still in Lance Cruise in seventh grade. I had this problem with this one kid, and he was black, but we would have problems, and like he would say some like really racist stuff. Like he would call me taco head or something like that, or like I always eat tacos. And like one time he told me to go back to my country, and like nobody did anything. And like it was kind of like at the time I didn't really like it hurt because I'm just like thinking like damn like it's like I do none of those things like I don't eat tacos every day, And like at that time like I've only been to Mexico once, and so like it just like bothered me how like nobody did anything, but like if someone were to insult like a black person, like oh everybody would be on to them. You know what I mean? Like I just feel like
Alienated.
yeah, like people only want to help when they want to help. But like I don't know, it's just like I said, it just bothers me. And like even so like in our society like right now, like I've been called to multiple stuff. Like obviously I'm a I mean I could take care of myself. Like if someone calls me a race something or like a racist slur like in an insult way, like obviously I'm gonna be on their ass and stuff like that. But like it just kind of pisses me off how like yeah, like I feel like
There's no outrage against other
yeah,
races.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a problem. That's definitely a problem. Like maybe this wasn't the direction that you were going in, but I see a far out direction. But you know, black people or other races, I guess I would say minorities, not taking the responsibilities that all people should have, and that's treating other people with respect, regardless of their race, whether they're another minority or they're white or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, like I remember I've been in multiple arguments, with my friends. There were always friendly arguments, and they never got serious or anything, but it was very clear that we both had different opinions on it, and that was like black people can't be racist or things like that. And their whole viewpoint was
Ooh, yeah.
it was racism is a word specific to white people,
Mm,
um, and stuff like that. And that they said like, black people can be discriminatory, they can be prejudiced,
yeah.
but it can't be racist. And I say, okay, well, define racism. They would define racism, and I'd say that's pretty much just being prejudiced. The only difference is that you're saying racism is a ethnicity or race specific term.
Hmm.
And the thing is that it's not defining a race. It's not, another word for a race. It's just a race specific term. And
Hmm.
so it didn't. It never. That doesn't make any sense to me to say that black people can't be racist. If
Yeah.
you're saying,
Hmm.
if you're comparing white racism to black racism, and the only difference is that one person is white and one person is black, um, they're the same thing. You can't. You can't. I mean, the only difference is that it's skin color, and um, and then it's the thing of, are we colorblind or are we not colorblind about things like this?
Hmm.
Um, in my opinion, I prefer, not to be colorblind about things, but to treat people equally regardless. You
Hmm.
know, um, so saying black people can't be racist is it's a problem. It's a serious problem, and I feel like people get away with it, a bit too much.
Yeah. Like
Um,
I would have, or continue.
yeah, yeah, you can go. I was done.
Oh, okay. Like I've had conversations with like people, like black people, and they say like, "Oh yeah, black people can't be racist," and like it just like really pisses me off, like because I've had multiple encounters where like black people were being racist towards me, and like it just like it like pisses me off. Like like anybody can be racist. Like a black person could be racist towards a white person, and then like a white person can be racist towards a black person. An Arabic person can be racist towards a Mexican. Like it's not
It's
only
not
to
one.
one race. Like it's for
Yeah,
everybody. Anybody can be racist.
yeah. I mean, either everybody can be racist or nobody can be racist, and we're all just prejudiced.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to just specify it to one race only, especially in
Hmm.
this interconnected worldwide, phenomena that is the human race.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, yeah, it's definitely something that I do not like. But I mean, another thing is that like jokes, like jokes are fine with me, like
Hmm.
as long as it's a joke before it's an insult,
Yeah. Yeah.
like like
I
um
feel it. I feel it.
if you want to make a joke about black people liking chicken or something like that, and it's obviously a joke,
Hmm.
not meant to be taken as an insult, whether you're black or any other race, I'm okay with that. It's fine. I'm not about to be upset over that. Some people might. You got to watch who you're talking to, obviously, with anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, that sort of stuff doesn't bother me, especially if it's not coming from a place with malicious intent.
Hmm.
Um, so like, I know one thing that I'd actually been thinking about recently was if you've ever seen any um what are they called, Quentin Tarantino movie, uh you know how he loves to say nigger. He loves to say that word, or he loves to have his actors say that word. Black, white, Asian, it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
It's honestly kind of weird. I think it's become a meme at that point. But
Yeah.
um, do I think Quentin Tarantino's a racist for saying that? And in a movie script? No, it's very clear that in my mind that he's not racist, especially with the leads he chooses and how he portrays them, and there's no underlying racism to it.
Hmm.
If you've seen Pulp Fiction or Hateful Eight or Django or um, I don't know, Kill Bill Part One and Two,
Okay, yeah,
it's
I've seen it.
it's definitely not racist.
Hmm.
Um, People always get offended over the word instead of the context behind the word, and that's a
Facts.
problem that I
Yes.
have.
Yeah.
Like whether it be a racial slur or a sexual or a sex based slur or a orientation based slur, um, it's always the context behind it.
Hmm.
Like if if I were to say faggot is a bad word, and you were to get upset because I said faggot instead of hearing that I said faggot is a bad word, you're
Hmm.
not accomplishing anything, or stuff like that. Um, it's just this. It's a problem, I think. Especially with this, I would say, outrage culture that we have. I'm not trying to sound like some sort of white white right wing, YouTuber, that's like, SJW this and stuff like that. But I'm just saying, like, people seem to focus on the outrage instead of actually, what's being said.
Hmm.
It's a bit bothersome to me, honestly, because it feels like people aren't thinking about what's being said and only what they hear and what they want to hear and what they think they said.
Yeah, like me personally, like I'm I used to be a very extremely socially awkward kid. Like
Hmm.
that was me like sophomore year and down. Like I was just always socially awkward. Like when I like had a hard childhood. Like I just never really talked to anybody.
Hmm.
And then some like certain events happened in my life like end of sophomore year and like junior year like I started being more outgoing and like something that would help me was comedy, like to help me
Yeah,
cope with stuff.
yeah,
And so like me now, like I'm an extremely offensive person. Like I like making offensive jokes. But like that's the thing. Like I don't like
they're
like
jokes
between
first.
yeah, like everybody that's how like I guess you could say like I made a name for myself for that, like for my spam account for like, making some like disturbing jokes, but like it's weirdly funny. Like that's like me. I kind of created like this character of mine. I guess you could say it like that. But, like between
Hmm.
like me and my friends, like we would like be saying racist slurs to each other all the time. Like they would be calling me beaners. I would like call them like a coon or something like that. But like it's between us, and like obviously none of us get offended. Like it's just all fun and games. But I've obviously had encounters where like
It's serious.
yeah, where like they're actually trying to insult me, and I'm just like okay, chill before I kick your ass. Like it's just like you said, like it always depends on the context. Like
You know,
I'm never gonna you know call like one of my friends like a slur like to like put them down or anything. Like no, like we're obviously joking. Like they could call me beaner all they want. Obviously they're joking. Like they're my friends. Like I know that they're joking. Like they could say like hey go to your country. And I'm all cool. Like I don't really get offended at all. But like if someone that I don't know or someone that I'm not really cool with tries to, tell me something like that, even if they're joking, but I'm not cool with them, that's where there's a problem.
Yeah,
Like
you
you said,
got.
it always depends on like the context and who you're saying it to and things like that. Like that's how I see it. Like me personally, I feel like anybody can say anything. I feel like
Yeah,
that's well, in my head it's like freedom of speech and stuff like that.
yeah,
But it like anybody can say anything, but it just depends on who you say it to where there could be a problem.
yeah. It's who you say it into and why you're saying it.
Yeah.
Um, because I remember, um, in the movie, I remember this is an old throwaway movie that no one remembers. That's only in my mind because it kind of scarred me or unsettled me. But this movie, it was called The Butler, and it was basically about uh, this black butler who um was what would you call it? He was he was a butler to to multiple presidents of the United States, and it was just telling his story and stuff like that. And in that movie, um, they were his son was doing like activism stuff because this takes place in like the 1950s and 60s and 70s. Um, and his son is talking about how or is joins this sit-in and with the college he's going to, and his fellow protesters, a couple of them are white, and they're trying to like train the black people, not break in, to not break down and show weakness when you're at the sit-in because obviously you're gonna get verbally and possibly physically assaulted.
Hmm.
And so, there's this, I wouldn't say montage, but this scene where this one dude, this white dude, I think he had orangish hair, but he was talking about how he didn't feel comfortable saying that word. It wasn't, it's not a good word to say. It's a racial slur. And
Hmm.
his 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 black, I guess I would say superior, the one who's the leader, I guess, yeah, the leader, I guess I would say, was like, you have to say it. You know, if you don't say it, things won't be as successful. And so, they had the protesters sit in chairs, and he would scream racial slurs at them, and he'd push them around and stuff like that. He obviously wouldn't hit them or anything like that, but some people broke down, some people stayed strong, and because of that, they went to the sit-in
Hmm.
and stuff like that. But it's just the context of the word. You can say any word regardless of your race. It's the context behind it. And
Yeah.
obviously, some people are going to be insulted. You got to
Hmm.
watch who you're saying it to,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, yeah.
But it's just like, whether it's a racial slur or sexual orientation based slur or a sex based slur or anything like that. You just got to choose your battles, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
Just be wise about what you're saying.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, and I guess back on the 1960s stuff. One of my dad's best friends, actually, he's in Florida now, but he 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 was my dad's best friend, but there was a famous picture of him where he's walking hand in hand with Martin Luther King. Like he's literally to the left of Martin Luther King. I think he's like immediate left. So he's like
Hmm.
in the front of the picture, arms linked with him. And famously, everybody thinks that's a picture of a white dude, because he's albino. Everybody thinks it's a
Oh.
picture of a white dude, uh, hand in hand with Martin Luther King. What a what a
Hmm.
what a revelation. You don't necessarily see something like that. It's a very famous picture. Um, But me knowing who that is, it's a bit strange, to hear people or see people, especially on the internet, talk about, him like he's a white person instead of, just an albino black dude.
Yeah.
That's a bit off topic, but I just wanted to throw that out there. It's just a little trivia for you guys. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a problem. Another
Yeah.
thing is that that I've actually managed to convince my friend about. She was on the podcast. She was on the first podcast and another one, but I managed to convince her about what cultural appropriation is. Cultural appropriation is such a sensitive topic that nobody really thinks about deeper than the word itself.
Hmm.
Like so basically her argument was that cultural appropriation is only something is when a person that is not of a certain race does something that is, I guess I would say predominant in another ethnicity or racist culture. Like if you're white and you have dreads, for example.
Oh, I
And
hate
I
that.
had to explain to her, that's not cultural appropriation.
Yeah.
Like you know, being white and rapping isn't cultural appropriation.
Hmm.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I mean, my um what's it called? I remember texting her about it, and like we really got into it, and eventually she conceded and actually agreed with me. But like the gist of it was race, I mean ethnicity and culture are two different things, and they're obviously, they can go hand in hand, but to say that they're, two sides of the coin is not true.
Hmm.
Uh, like I asked her, if a white person gets adopted into a black family, can he, for example, have waves? And she would
Yeah.
say no, and I'd say why not? And she would say because he's white. Okay, but his culture is, you know, this I don't it's not is this African American culture. He has
Hmm.
lived in this culture his whole life. Um, you know, and so she had to concede that, through just logical explanation. Um, or no, her argument was, you should follow your racist culture, and I was like, whoa, that's a bit segregationist, don't you think? And
Yeah.
she realized that, and she was talking about like and then I was like, um, even if you're a part of a white culture, not necessarily taking something from a different culture, but like using a different hairstyle from a different culture, that's not cultural appropriation. That's just
Yeah.
appreciation, essentially. Now
Hmm.
cultural appropriation, by definition, essentially is when a culture, often a dominant one, takes something from a lesser culture or a different culture and claims that to be of their own culture.
Hmm.
So, I mean, I don't really have any examples off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure if you're listening to this, you can think of something. But, like, and so I explained that to her, and it was like literally the Oxford Dictionary of it. Um, and so, we had to go based off of that. And so that set the standard of the conversation. Um, let's see. Um, so I talked to her about that, and she eventually conceded that, like, for example, America, United States, it's a cultural melting pot. We have Cinco de Mayo, we have Chinese New Year, we have Christmas, we have, these these um these festivals and these holidays from all sorts of cultures.
Yeah.
Um, and so my question to her was, do we keep it all separate depending on your race? Do we keep it all separate depending on your culture? Or do we allow people to celebrate regardless of their culture because it's not cultural appropriation, it's just something from a different culture that someone's participating in?
Hmm.
Like, if you go to Japan, Japanese people are famously xenophobic towards outsiders, obviously. Not obviously, but famously. Um, but if you once they open up to you, um, you know, they can be. I guess it's too late to say welcoming, but they can be, actually kind and considerate people. I'm not saying that for all Japanese people. It's not that way for all Japanese people, obviously, but that's famously the case. But like they would allow people of different ethnicities and races and religions um, to participate in Japanese Shinto traditions and Japanese festivals and stuff like that. And it's not like those people are appropriating, your culture. They're just appreciating it and participating in it. And so, dreads, for example, she was saying that dreads are predominantly, African, Nubian, black. And it turns out that dreads are actually multicultural. They have origins from all sorts of cultures. White people with Gaelic and what would you call them? You know, they came from the north and they just destroyed the Romans. The barbers, I think they were called barbarians. And like they were also uh, shown to originate in India, um, in Aboriginal tribes in Australia, and obviously Africa. But you know, to say something is 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 yours based on your race is generally incorrect unless it's phenotypic with but like cultures and stuff like that. You can't claim a culture because of your race.
Hmm.
It's very wrong to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah. Um, I saw a video like recently of this one white guy. I think it was in California. He went to like this Mexican area, um, and he bought like some maracas, and a poncho.
Yeah,
And like he went to the campus around there, and he just started interviewing people like, "Do you think that you know my outfit is cultural appropriation?" And all like I guess everybody that wasn't Mexican said, "Yeah, that's like really offensive and stuff like that." But he asked the Mexicans, which is like that I guess stereotypically that's their culture. They have the sombrero, the maracas, the poncho.
yeah.
Like they also just like, no, it's fine. I mean, like, yeah, like
It's
I
just
don't really
clothes.
see, I don't see a problem with someone from a different race, wearing a sombrero and things like that. Like, and I thought that was like shocking. Like, everybody that wasn't Mexican thought it was offensive and stuff like that, but everybody who was Mexican just like, no, you look good. Like, it was actually really funny, and it's just like, wow. Like to me, I feel like cultural appropriation is when you start being ignorant about it. I feel like that's when it becomes a problem.
Yeah, when you
Like,
like, oh, yeah, this is my culture. This sombrero and maracas and poncho is my culture. It's always been a
yeah,
white tradition. That's ignorant. Obviously, it's not
yeah,
true.
yeah. Like if once someone becomes ignorant about it, I feel like that's when there's an issue. But I mean, if there's someone from school that wants to, I don't know, you know what are cholos?
Yeah,
Cholos are like pretty much, they're pretty much like Mexican gangsters, and
yeah.
they have like a stereotypical like outfit, like a white T-shirt with
Jean
a button
shorts.
shirt, flannel. Like yeah, it could
Yeah,
be some jeans, uh some cargo shorts or cargo pants, and then some just like I don't know some black shoes, and like they have the bandana. Like that's like their outfit. Like if I've seen a couple people like on Cinco de Mayo, people from school that would like dress up like that. So like some Mexicans, like I dress up as a cholo for Halloween. Well,
hmm
obviously I'm Mexican, but I know this one girl like she's white, but her best friend's like Mexican. Like I mean, I think that's fine. I mean, I don't really care. But like if someone was to um like come and like have a sombrero and then like go into the halls and yell like "Orale," and things like that. I mean, like I said, start being ignorant about it.
you know, yeah,
Obviously, like I said, like that's when there's an issue. But I honestly, I feel like in the society that we are now, people just get way too offended over things. I just feel like people think way too much from, I guess, like feelings. I don't know, but I just feel like everybody takes things to heart, if that makes sense.
yeah. I see what you're talking about. Um, it's definitely problematic. You know, like I remember my friend before she conceded at the point and finally got to got and listened to me about it and accepted what I was saying. Uh, she was talking about how there was this white girl in her class who had braids
Hmm.
and that they thought it was offensive for some reason. They're saying that it was like cultural appropriation and stuff like that, and they were looking at it all wrong and stuff like that. And it was like, why? Um, you know, she's not harming anybody. She's not saying that it's a white thing.
Hmm.
I'm pretty sure she knows that braids, or at least braids that you'd consider African American, or that she was obvious she had to have been wearing because stuff like that. Why would she say it otherwise? Is African American. It's it's strange, to for me at least to see people get offended over something that isn't offensive, you know, objectively speaking, if you're going to like look at things logically and not just what you know know. Like obviously, it took me a while to come to the logical conclusion of where I've come from or where I've my points, but I never like said someone couldn't wear a do rag or someone couldn't do this or someone couldn't do that or it was offensive or it was cultural appropriation. That was never really something that I would do.
Hmm.
Um, it's just it feels like people are ignorant about it,
Yeah.
and it feels like I go on Instagram and I see you know like we need to shut down Danielle Bergoli. I'm not for Danielle Bergoli, but I'm
She's
I'm
the Catch Me Outside girl, right?
yeah.
Okay,
She
okay.
she she raps now. Her name is Bad Baby.
Yeah, yeah, bad baby.
Um, but they're like saying that she's a cultural appropriator. but they
I
never say
mean,
how. Like
yeah.
how is she culturally appropriating? And then once you explain to me how you think she's cultural appropriating, is it really cultural appropriation? Because she's definitely not the first white rapper. Are you against all white rappers? Are you against Eminem? He lived in Detroit. He lived with black people, and his culture of was predominantly, African American. I guess if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Um, Logic, he's biracial. The whole big Logic is biracial meme, where he just can't stop
Yeah.
saying it. But you know, does he get a pass? He's biracial, so does that mean he gets to do both, or does he have to do one, or what is it? What is it? It's there's
Hmm.
they don't set the rules. They just say what they want to say. It's very frustrating to see stuff like that where nobody's setting the rules but everybody's unified on it. And
Hmm.
so it creates chaos and misunderstandings and this problem.
Yeah.
It's from what I've heard. Daniel Bergoli doesn't say racial slurs, and if she does, I'm pretty sure it's not with any more malicious intent or with racial intent behind it.
Hmm.
I could definitely see her doing, saying racial slurs, but I don't think it's with
Yeah.
racial. But
Yeah. She is a character. Yeah.
yeah, I it's just it's a problem. You have any points about that, or did you already say what you wanted to say?
Um. Yeah, about cultural appropriation. Yeah. I mean, I guess I could still talk about like I guess my experiences with racism.
All right.
Um. So seventh grade when I finished seventh grade from Lance Cruz, that's when I moved to Belleville, and so I went to McBride eighth grade, and I was kind of glad because I was hoping like okay, fresh start. Hopefully there are at least some Mexicans here that I could like get along with, and so I moved here, and it was kind of the same thing. I mean, the only thing that was different, I guess, it was just I mean I feel like it was just majority not like over there in Lance Cruz it was majority white. Over here, I feel like it was just majority black, which
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the time I was just like, oh, okay, it's different, but hopefully this works out. And like there
Mm-hmm.
were some Mexicans, like at the time I only knew like one full Mexican, and then
Mm-hmm.
like I knew like some half Mexicans, and but I would say it was a lot, it was better. I mean, in a way, like people weren't as ignorant, but the times that were there were like racist encounters, like they were pretty like big. Like when I was in McBride, like there was the first time someone called me a beaner, and it was like in front of the whole class. And I was stupid, and I didn't know what beaner meant at the time, and so I just honestly looked like a dumbass. But luckily, the teacher, his name was Mr. Munoz, he's half Mexican,
Yeah.
and so he like got all mad. He's just like, I'm half Mexican, and my son like is half Mexican. So you're not only are you like being racist towards Amelia, you're being racist towards me and my son. And then the guy was just like, oh, sorry. And I think he kicked him out. He kicked him out, but people told me like, aren't you offended? And just like, I mean, I was just like, I don't know, because at the time, obviously, I didn't know what it meant. Like I said before, like I never necessarily knew what racism was until I moved to Michigan.
Yeah.
And so like because I didn't like I look back and I like sometimes thought like why didn't my parents talk to me about it? But when I think about it, it's just like they didn't need to, I guess, when I lived in Kansas because we were just a bunch of like we were just crowded with like Mexicans and like with our people and like it was perfectly fine. Obviously they told us to, treat everybody that you would want to be treated. And so like I just like I was never making fun of someone because of their race or something like that. Like I was never nothing like that.
Yeah.
But that was a pretty big one, and I look back and I'm just like, damn, like that was like, ugh. And like he used it. I think he used it as like an insult, and I'm just like, damn, man, I wish I did something because that is not cool.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if I was there for it. I might have been in the sixth grade actually, but I know at McBride famously was like some kid who said something racist, and a bunch of like black kids heard him, and they like jumped him in the bathroom and like broke at least one of his arms. Some people say both of his arms.
Yikes.
Some people say one of his arms.
Damn.
Um, but you know, so I guess what I'm trying to get at is, be careful who you're saying what to and where you're saying it and why you're saying it.
Yes, 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 yes.
But I guess that leads to another thing, and that is the reaction to racism.
Hmm.
Like some people decide not to react and go about their day, not letting it get to them. Some people really let it get to them, and for the people that, and I don't think either is necessarily the correct answer. I think the correct answer is somewhere in between, where it's you call them out for it, but you don't, and you obviously um, give them a hard time and make life harder for them, but you don't go about violence. Violence is only going to compound more hatred and more racism, especially, with the people of that race that you just essentially assaulted,
Hmm.
in retaliation for whatever they said or did.
Yeah.
Uh, like, it's just a problem because I know I've heard of like, I've seen, like, I peruse the internet. I'm a traveler of the internet. Um, I go all sorts of places. Probably some I shouldn't be, but uh, I've seen like videos of like, I saw a video of this white woman at a gas station. She called this black man a nigger, like, and she was like, what are you gonna do? And he like raised his hand and summoned the power of Zeus or something, and just like slapped her so hard. It was like a sonic boom, just it was amazing how hard he slapped her. But like I was honestly awestruck with how hard he slapped her. But he was like, yeah, you call me a nigger, you get slapped. And obviously, it was a unique situation, and he was more in the right than she was, but I wouldn't necessarily either of them were correct in what they did.
Hmm.
Um, you know, because all that's going to do is, some white person's going to see that and say, all black people are violent if you say the wrong thing to them or something like that.
Yeah.
It's it happens all the time. I see it all the time. And especially in like the comment sections where things like this happen. It's like a war. It's like a war. And
Hmm.
I just have fun watching, this war take place, and people getting BTFO'd, uh, well, about whatever's going on, whether they say that black people are inferior or superior, or white people are inferior or superior, or whatever race, um, or whatever this or whatever that. And one thing that they always love to bring up, and it's become a meme point at this point, is 13 and 50%. They would say that, although making 13% of the population, black people make up 50% of the crimes and stuff like that.
Hmm.
It's just like all this is doing is breeding more hatred,
Yeah.
whether they do or do not. All you're doing is breeding more hatred.
Hmm.
And obviously facts are facts, and as Ben Shapiro likes to say, facts don't care about your feelings, but you know there's always taste to things. especially when you're trying to make an argument and what you're trying to, get across. Um, so I mean, yeah, I mean the people who broke that kid's arms famously, I wasn't there for it. Obviously, I don't have the full story. I don't even know who the kid was or any of the kids.
Yeah, yeah, I don't remember that at all. Or like I
But
don't.
he that obviously wasn't the way to go about it, because now all you're doing is creating a bigger problem. I
Yeah.
remember, like, because now that kid's, you know, gonna go home scarred, because his arm is broken. He just got jumped by a bunch of black people. And he's gonna think it, I'm afraid to be around black people now, and it's just
Yeah.
gonna be hatred, and it's that sort of stuff all the time.
Yeah. Like I guess I kind of made this point before or like earlier. But I feel like when it's towards me or like when someone says something racist towards me, nobody really does anything. Like it's just like, oh, it's just a Mexican kid. Like who cares?
Yeah,
But like when that kid called me like beaner in eighth grade, like nobody did anything. The teacher did something because he was like
half.
Mexican. Yeah. But nobody did was just like, oh, like it was just like you can't say that. Like no, but I promise you, like if someone called a black person the N word with the hard R, like everybody would be jumping at that kid, kicking him in the head, like everybody would be at him. Like that's just the way I feel. Like I've like have had encounters where, like I said, like he said it in front of the whole entire class, like everybody heard it, and like
Yeah,
nobody did anything.
people should have a problem regardless of, you know, which whatever race you are and whatever racial slur they said,
Hmm.
regardless of whatever race you are relative to who they are,
Yeah.
and I'll jump in and say something when it's appropriate, but
Hmm.
for some people, sometimes it's you know, some people have to fight their own battles.
Yeah.
I know that's my opinion with a lot of things, like if someone's getting bullied and it's very clear that they could stand up to the bully and at least say something, you know, they need to say something before I step in and do something,
Yeah.
Um, if you're not going to have the courage to stand up for yourself, then why should I have the courage to stand up for you? You know,
Yeah.
um, it's just it's complicated, but that's the way life is.
Yeah.
But it's just and then the thing is that like I said earlier, there's always I saw this meme and it was a Doge meme, the resurfacing of Doge meme, but it was Doge and he was like, you guys are racist for real? I thought this was just a joke, and I think that really hit home with me because I can make racist jokes, I can you know squint my eyes and pull my eyes back and sound try to and make and do Chinese phonetics and say, oh, you want egg roll and stuff like that, but
Hmm.
am I actually a racist? Am I actually racist towards Chinese people? Am I actually discriminatory towards Chinese people and you know actually believe in any of that stuff? No, it's obviously just a joke, I'm and it's very clear that I'm joking when I say stuff like that. But some
Yeah.
people really do, take to heart, being racist and like really like wear it like a badge almost. It feels like,
Hmm.
especially on the internet.
Yeah. Like I remember these two kids, or they were like these two brothers. They were twins. Um, they in McBride. I remember I didn't know them personally, but like I knew who they were. And like in McBride, like I guess you could say they acted Well, the way I can explain it is just like they were, I guess they were around, surrounded more with like black people, and so
Hmm.
they kind of just, in a way, just like followed whatever the trend was for that. I don't know how to like explain it without sounding like ignorant or something like that.
Hmm.
But it was like that for a while, and then just randomly out of nowhere, um, they just like started being racist, like out of literally nowhere. Like there's like a popular video of them, or not popular, but like popular in this area, of them saying like, oh, like N words, uh, like hard R, and it's just like, you know, beaners should go back to their country, whatnot. It's just like it was just when I saw it, I was just like disgusted, like you, like how can someone like be okay saying that? You know what I mean? Or like like and actually like mean it, like not as like a joke, but like straight up like they like that's what their belief is, you know? Like it's just like I don't understand those types of people where they actually believe that, you know, like are they like they're okay with them saying like, yeah, I'm racist, I don't like black people, I don't like Mexicans or stuff like that. Like it's just ugh, like I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, I don't get that either. Um, you know, um, maybe this is a little off topic. I think we're nearly done with the conversation, but or at least this part of the conversation. But I remember I was watching an episode of Beyond Scared Straight, and there was this one kid who, like, he had like a Confederate Union flag, or yeah, not a Union flag, a Confederate flag, and he was talking about how he stole a bike from a black guy or a black kid or something, and how he didn't like black people or something like that. And the producer was like, "You're racist," and he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm racist." And you know, being on Beyond Scared Straight and being a racist, that's a double whammy. It seems like it's not exactly a good idea to at least openly be racist. Especially when you're going to prison. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so, like, the one of the POs was like, "Hey, this kid right here, he hates black people. He's a racist." And so they like put him in a cell with a bunch of black people. And I thought he was just gonna die.
Yikes.
I'm like, yeah, he's done.
Yeah.
He's done. But
Yikes.
but like there were obviously cameras and stuff like that, and uh, they like made him comb like this black dude's chest hair and stuff like that. It was very demeaning to him. Obviously, I hope he learned his lesson, but I honestly don't think it's gonna change anything for him. How do
Yeah.
you? I guess a question that comes from this is, how do you change a racist? What would you do?
Oh, that's a toughie. Um, I mean, honestly, I don't really know. I mean, I could say just like, you know, bring them to somebody else, to someone else's culture. So like, let them understand like what it's like for, I guess, like a Mexican family. But I feel like that wouldn't really necessarily change anything. Honestly, I can't really like have a straightforward answer with that one.
Yeah, I think it's a bit difficult. There's no real formula to it, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I would do is just try to educate them in a non-biased way, because I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that's where a lot of, racism comes from, is just biased education of and views, and then it's a matter of ideals. Um, yeah, I just I don't necessarily have an answer myself. It's a difficult question to answer. It's something you got to take with a case by case basis.
Yeah. like when I hear sometimes when people say like let's end racism, like personally I don't think that racism could end. That's just my opinion.
Hmm.
I feel like it's always gonna be with us no matter what we do. Now, could we like lower the rate of it? Possibly, yes. But I just feel like it's never gonna go away.
Yeah, of course. Um, Another thing is that, at least from a black family and, hearing what they have to say, it always feels like it's an us versus them sort of thing, or that's what they try to portray it as, where it's always black people versus white people,
Hmm.
or they versus us, or they did this to us and we did this to them, and all that sort of stuff. And I don't like that.
Hmm.
I guess I can understand it being us versus them, 50, 60, 70 years ago, when that was a huge problem, and, backward in time, obviously. But now I don't really view it as an us versus them thing. I view it more of as an us, in all of us, you know, versus ourselves. We need to um, change. Just just be more unified as a people. As citizens of the United States, as fellow human beings. People of the world. We just got to be more united as a people.
Yeah.
Beyond religion, beyond race, beyond culture. You can obviously have different ideals and different politics and different views on things, but to um, alienate and separate and discriminate based on that, it's a problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, so it sounds like this conversation is just about wrapped up. If you have any closing thoughts before we move on to the next one, do you have any closing thoughts?
Hmm. I mean, yeah, like me, I've had like so many like racist encounters, but at the end of the day, like I look at it, I think about it, and I'm just maybe like I just wish that people weren't as ignorant as we all are. Like we should all like respect each other's culture. Like obviously if it's between friends, I mean like obviously if it's supposed to be a joke between friends, then I mean that's fine, do whatever. Like that's perfectly fine, but like when it's like comes into like insults, like that's not okay. But like I don't believe in the saying um like we should like see people's color or like something like that. Like I don't I feel like color should even be in the equation. Like I don't think we should see color. I just feel like we should just respect everyone's culture. Like I feel like that's just the main point that I guess I have to say is just respect each other's culture. Yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, culture. I mean, color shouldn't be the factor.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, well, I mean, in an ideal world, color shouldn't be a factor. It should be who they are as a person.
Yeah, fact. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, but I guess with that, there comes the flip side, and that is, in this flawed world, color has to be a factor.
Oh yeah,
Like,
definitely. Yeah.
if you're trying to, apply for college, and there's a black kid who, you know, obviously doesn't have the same privileges or the same opportunities as a white kid. Who are you going to allow into your college?
Mhm.
Um, Ideally, you would say whoever has the better GPA, the better transcript. But unfortunately, I guess we're not there yet. It's you know, hopefully you choose the one that needs it more.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, color shouldn't be a factor, but as of now, or for right now, unfortunately, it is.
Hmm.
All right. Well, I think I've made my closing thoughts. You want to introduce the next topic?
Sure. So what I wanted to talk about was, well, I guess like during this whole pandemic, how it's like a extremely like serious thing, like how it's gonna affect like individuals' thoughts about like the future. Like I've definitely have thought like, what am I like? I've been thinking like, what am I gonna do for college? Like me, like I'm like I want to become uh well, I guess my goal in life is to become a director, a movie director. And so I want to go to school and get my digital video production degree, and then like a minor in photography. But I think about it. I'm just like, how is that going to work out during this whole pandemic? Because you can't. I mean, I guess it would be different. I don't know how it's going to work out because I'm not going to be in school learning and working with cameras and things like that, like the way I wanted it to be. And it just has me thinking like, what am I going to do if it like if it doesn't happen, if that makes sense. Like if I don't go to college this year or something like that. I don't know. Like it just went through my mind like where they canceled college, and it just like I'm like super bummed because I was supposed to go to college this year. And yeah.
So like, it's like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Um, do I still want to have the career that I'm having if I don't get to do it right now, or is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, in a way. Yeah. Because
All
like
right.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, I guess I could understand I guess I don't fully understand your predicament, but I'm starting to grasp it. I mean, I'm a junior. You're obviously a graduated senior at this point, or I'm a senior
Yeah.
now, graduated.
Well, we still have to do it like online stuff. Like they just
Yeah,
assigned it today.
yeah, yeah. You guys don't have to do as much though, or for as long.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
um, it's it's like it kind of changes your plans or your perspective on your plans. It's like if I don't get to do this right now, what will change by the time I get to do it?
Mhm.
Um, you know, Luckily I'm not a senior, and unfortunately for you, you are a senior. Um, I it's weird for me because for the longest time I've been very consistent on what I want to do. It's always been in the same ballpark. Um, I always wanted to work with video games in some sort of way. At first, I wanted to become a programmer, and then I realized I didn't really like coding that much. So I wanted to become a um, designer. I wanted to use my artistic skills to design levels in video games, design characters, and design concept art and stuff like that. And you know, now at this point, it's between two things, and I'm not necessarily split down the middle, seeing how I can do both. I mean, relatively easily. But now I
Mhm.
want to become a creative director, for anything really, whether it be commercials or movies or TV shows or comics or video games, obviously. But I wanted to become a creative director. I've always had these creative visions. I've always had ideas for books and cartoons and movies and anime in my head, and I'd write them down from time to time if I thought they were good enough. I even started storyboarding a book, I think. I am storyboarding a book. It's just a matter of do I actually want to write it.
Yeah.
Um, but recently, the thought of becoming just a successful stock investor, stockholder has come into my mind. I'm someone. Well, obviously, nobody wants to work, but I'm somebody who's motivated to do what it takes to not have to work, or work
Hmm.
every day and stuff like that. Um, my goal is pretty simple. It's just, you know, as long as I'm happy with what I'm doing and I'm able to do what I want to do, I'm good. No matter how much money I'm making. Um, so for me, it's kind of strange, especially coming into things, where I got to start choosing colleges, and colleges are going to start, looking at me and looking and trying to get me to go to their college and giving me offers and things like that. And which colleges I can get to if I apply to them, and it's just it's I wouldn't say overwhelming, but it's a bit anxiety inducing, to finally be at that point where it's like you got to decide,
Hmm.
and I feel like that's where a lot of seniors are at, especially with coronavirus putting a hindrance on their immediate decision. It's giving them time to think and really, um, you know, think about the future.
Yeah.
Um, I, uh, it's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, what are you thinking about doing now? Since being a film director or making movies is being called into question.
Well, I don't think that would change careers. Like me, like I'm extremely passionate about film and
Hmm.
videography and photography. Like that's like my passion. Like I started I guess I started enjoying it sophomore year, and then junior year I like took a class like for the morning announcements, and so like I would make videos and they would be sent out to the school so everybody can see them. And
Yeah.
then now like I'm the head director of the entire class, and so I'm in charge of actually making them. And I edit them and I send them out to the school and everybody can see them. And so like I'm like extremely passionate about it, and I don't think that would change, but it just kind of
Yeah, you
it's
interviewed me, didn't you?
I did actually. I remembered when I like hit you up. I was just like, wait, I remember interviewing this kid, and I put you in the morning announcements, and it was really funny what your response was.
Yeah.
I
You were
remember,
asking me about what baby oil is made out of, right?
yeah, it was just like a funny little thing,
Yeah.
skit that I was doing. And you know, like, there's something like I don't want to kill kids or something like that, and like I edited it where it was kind of funny, and that was a funny moment.
Yeah.
Um,
Everybody was talking to me about that.
yeah, I remember that. Oh yeah. Um, like I said, like I'm extremely passionate. So I don't think that I'm gonna change careers, but it's mainly just the fact where like I'm scared of like what's gonna happen, because I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen to my college career. I don't know if I'm gonna have a college career in this year or something like that. Like it's more the fact like I said, like I'm just like scared and nervous.
You
Like I don't
nervous
know.
about what the future may hold?
Yeah, like I don't know when this pandemic's gonna end. I don't know like I don't know if I would possibly get it or something like that. Like it's just like kind of just like it's just been a thought in my head where like I said, like what's gonna happen, and I don't know.
Yeah, I definitely get that. I hate being uncertain about my future. I've
Hmm.
always been somebody that knew what I wanted and knew what was ahead of me and how to go about it, or
Hmm.
was able to plan how to go about it. But with colleges and stuff like that, things are very uncertain until they are certain, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, All right. Uh, seeing how I'm probably sloppily editing this together. Sorry to people who um are hearing this. This is me letting you know that I'm spicing two requests. Since I suck at editing, but yeah. I mean, let's back to where I left off. Things can be really uncertain, and it calls into question, what's going to happen and what you want to do and how it's going to happen if it's going to happen. It can be scary. Um, I I definitely want to become a creative director, but how am I supposed to go about that? I think U of M actually has classes specific for creative directors, but you know, am I going to get to U of M? I think I have a pretty good transcript. I've um, done sports. I've been in honors. My GPA isn't horrible. I've done volunteer work. You know, Besides, I've done lots of volunteer work. I'm a minority, obviously. Uh, I think I have a pretty good chance. It's still nerve wracking though. Especially when you're trying to get into a college or the college that you want.
Yeah.
I mean, what's your fallback if things don't go as planned?
Well, from the start, even when I like was choosing to through different careers until I like left on film, I always knew that like my fallback would be what my parents are doing, which is they work for the government. They're like food inspectors. And so like
Okay.
when you like for an example, when you go to Walmart and you go to the meat aisle and like there would be like a USDA sticker, like
Yeah.
that's them pretty much. Like they work for the USDA. And that's pretty much, I mean, that's my fallback. I mean, in the beginning it would be really tough. Like I remember when I was a child, like when they first started out, like the way it works is like there's levels, and the first level is like the slaughterhouse, and so like you're killing the chickens, the cows, and like or you're not inspecting them, but you're just like getting them prepared for the inspectors.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's I mean that's my fallback. I mean I don't need a college degree for that. It definitely helps. It 100% helps because I know people who work there where they don't have like a college degree, but they have a high school degree, but
Hmm.
they're not able to get any further because they don't have a higher education. But people who have a college degree, they're able to go further because of that college degree.
Hmm.
And so like it would definitely help, but I don't necessarily need it. But I mean if I were to go to that, then I would probably get a college degree for it.
Hmm. Um, I guess the same could be said for my line of work, especially programming. People always prefer if you have a college degree, but there's always the talks of, oh, you don't actually need a college degree. If you're good enough, we're gonna hire you and blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, having a college degree helps a lot.
Hmm.
You know, um, it's definitely a scary situation where you have to compete against your peers and the people around you to get where you want to go. Instead of everybody just looking at you individually based on your own merits.
Hmm.
But it's that's the way things go, unfortunately. That's a good question. I brought this up to my friends a while ago, but do you think we should end standardized testing?
Ooh, like the SAT and ACT and stuff like that.
Yep.
Um,
I mean, for me, I say no. I think we should keep it. I think it'd be very
Yeah.
time consuming to, you know, gauge everybody individually if we weren't doing standardized testing.
Yeah, like
How do you feel about it?
since you're did you guys take the SAT already?
Nope, we gonna have to do it next year.
Oh wow. Yeah, like last year it was extremely stressful. But I mean, yeah, I feel like it should stay. Yeah. I mean, because it's like the main thing that colleges look at, like your progression.
Hmm.
Like like I did way better in my SAT than I did in my PSAT.
Hmm.
And so like obviously colleges are gonna look at that and it's just like, oh, this kid knew, progressed over time. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean yeah, I feel like we should still have standardized testing.
Yeah, I don't know how people would go about it if there was not standardized testing.
I mean obviously it's like an extremely stressful thing. Like I obviously went through it and like it was a pain in the ass, but I mean, not everything is, sunshine and rainbows, you kind of have to suffer sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I
Um,
mean, yeah.
yeah. I don't know what my fallback would be. I was thinking about. Well, actually, I'm still thinking about it, and I want to do that. Especially um, since businesses are starting to actually move to Detroit. But I wanted to start being a landowner. Uh, Even if it's just to own the land. Where people build stuff. I don't necessarily have to do anything with it. You know, as prices for land goes up and stuff like that. I already own, or my family already owns a strip of land near the Eastern Market, if you've ever been there. Uh,
Hmm.
but I mean that land is going to become incredibly valuable. I would say in the next 20 years, as Detroit has or is going under this is undergoing this $6 billion, I think, project to just revitalize and revamp the city and make it economically successful once again. Uh, I mean, but you have to have money to land on, so I gotta I gotta start somewhere. I'm just not sure where I'd start.
Hmm.
I don't want to do a menial job. I mean, I guess I could do a menial job. Like to start with, especially if I can just put in my earbuds and zone out. Like taking the shopping carts I admire and putting them back in their places and stuff like that, or you know uh, stacking stuff and stuff like that. But I don't want to do something that doesn't seem fun to me, or at least that I could just zone out and go to my own world and while I do my work.
Yeah.
You know, um, I guess if you put a gun to my head and said choose a fallback, I would choose. It's a toughie. I would say military, but that's not really something that I'd want to do. That's something
Hmm.
I do just get a pension. Um, I don't know. I could see myself as um a writer, I guess, like someone who writes stories or short stories and stuff like that. I don't think I could do anything like George R. R. Martin, or Tolkien, making these huge fantasy worlds. I think I'd get pretty bored before I finished. But
Hmm.
I could see myself doing short stories and creating these miniature worlds and stuff like that. I in my last podcast I talked about um some book or movies, like movie ideas that I had. My co-hosts thought that they were good, they'd watch it, especially if it was executed well,
Mm.
But I think I
Yeah, I
think
think I heard that one.
I think it's a scary situation. It's definitely a tough one. Um, yeah. Um, Seems like we're about to wrap up with that conversation. You have any closing thoughts?
No, not really. No.
All right. Well, neither do I. So let's introduce the final topic. You know, last of the three, and that is beef. Having beef with people. Um, I, you know, for me, I try not to have beef with people because if I get beef with somebody, I don't let it go. I
Hmm.
have such a hard time letting it go. Um, it, it's definitely been a problem in my life, and it's definitely been something draining. It was me just having a beef with people. I can remember I had a beef with my brother, my older brother, for like 5 years with your own brother, which is just
Yikes.
that sounds crazy, but I held on for 5 years. I just couldn't let go. Um, you know, it was over something really stupid too that I probably should have just been like, okay, whatever. He's just having a bad day. But I really just I couldn't let it go. Beef is to me is just something destructive and it doesn't really help anybody. How about you?
Hmm. Um. So I guess the main, like, I've had beef before, like in middle school and stuff like that, and like, I don't necessarily count those. I guess I've like had the main, I guess the three main beefs I've had are like obviously in high school.
Hmm.
Um, it, like I was always a socially awkward kid, like I
Hmm.
said like earlier. And so I would honestly like never talk to anybody. So like because of that I never necessarily had problems with anybody.
Yeah.
Or at least like anything major, I guess. But once I started becoming like more like outgoing and like speaking my mind and stuff like that, I get there's this guy, he's a YouTuber actually, and he graduated last year. His name is Josh Laurent. I don't know if you've heard of him,
I don't think I have.
but he has a pretty decent amount of subscribers, like I think almost 200K.
Well, that's a
Um,
lot.
yeah, yeah. Um, and they were always like so bad. Like when my friend showed me him, like they were terrible. They were like a bunch of like public interviews saying like, "Will you take my virginity?" and things like that. Like just some like
Low.
weird and like just yeah, like it was just cringy. And like he would always put like a shit ton of ads on them. Like he would every video would be over 10 minutes, and I don't know if you know how it works, but like if a
Yeah,
video is over 10 minutes, then you're able to put ads in. But the thing is, he would put like 14 ads in a 15-minute video.
that's
And
ridiculous.
yeah, like so like every minute there's an ad, an ad, an ad, an ad, and it just like pissed me off, and it's just kind of annoying. And then he would do obviously like the clickbait and stuff like that. And so I just honestly I kind of just started like kind of making fun of him, poking fun. And I was a junior and he was a senior, and so I had my spam account. I mean, this is when I started. I guess you could say making a name for myself.
Hmm.
Where like people, I would like make funny videos or like post funny stuff on my spam,
Hmm.
and then I started like making like funny skits about him, like kind of saying like he's a bad YouTuber and stuff, whatnot. And like um, it just started. It's like started this back and forth thing where like I would hear him talking crap about me and whatnot. And like in all reality, like what I'm gonna say in the end, like we never had an like face to face encounter, which I kind of regret not doing. But I mean, it's whatever. But this is when I started getting more into like, I guess like started getting more into videography. And
Hmm.
so I told myself, okay, I'm gonna buy a camera and then I'm gonna make a YouTube video about him. Like I like watching commentary videos where like where like YouTubers like I guess make fun of like just people that do stupid stuff.
Yeah.
Like I love that genre. I like I don't know if you know these YouTubers like Cody Cohen, Danny Gonzalez, like funniest people on earth. Like it's hilarious. But I said like I kind of want to do that. Just kind of make fun of him a bit. Like like I never really hated the guy. Like people always say like why do you hate Justin? Like I never hated him. But like, I mean, I just never really liked his videos. That was literally the entire like purpose of me. It's just like, I never liked his videos. That was it.
Hmm.
And like I heard that like he's gonna get his friends to like beat me up, and it was just like this whole weird beef. And eventually, I made a video about him, and I look back and it's terrible. It is. I look back and it's just terrible. I wish I never made it, but I mean, it has like two I don't know how to say 2K views, 2,000 views,
All right.
which
That's
is
not.
pretty good. It's pretty
Yeah.
good. I
Yeah.
mean, to be honest, the majority of the views are from his channel, and so it's obviously like I'm making fun of the guy, so people are like, "Oh, you suck" and whatnot. Which I mean,
Yeah.
I never really cared, but he ended up making like a response video, and it was funny to me, but like to be honest, it was literally just him looking at the screen without saying anything. And so it was like 12 minutes of him, like in 12 minutes of a video, 9 minutes of that video, he's like looking at the screen.
It's
And
just
so,
silent.
he would say some little comments like, oh, I don't do that and whatnot. And it's just like, okay. And
Nothing
yeah,
critical to say.
it was just funny. And that lasted pretty much my entire junior year.
Hmm.
And so that was like extremely long beef. And like, it obviously ended when like he left. And I kind of just, it's because I knew that I was milking it a lot, just because I thought it was funny. I mean, yeah, I mean, oh, another thing, I guess when I made that video and I posted it, like the next day, like everybody looked at me and it was so weird. Like everybody was like staring at me in the hallways.
Was it like a why would you do that sort of stare, or was it like a wow sort of stare? I mean, what kind of was it? Was it an angry stare? What
Not
was it?
necessarily, like, I don't know, like, I
It's
think it
just
was
an
more of a
awkward thing.
wow sort of stare, or at least from what I think about it. Like, yeah, I think it was more like a wow sort of stare. Because like when I posted it, people from school liked it. That's the weird thing. Like I didn't really think that people would like it, but um, it was just different. Or like, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
It's all
But
right.
I would, like I said, like I would come to school, and people looked at me weird, and people liked it, and it was just weird because I didn't think it was gonna get a lot of attention from the school. But
Hmm.
everybody saw, and like there would be obviously after that day when everybody just stared at me, and it were mainly like his friend group that stared at me,
Hmm.
and they would just like see me in the hallways, just like stare me down. It's just like kind of awkward. But then like I'd be in class or like in the hallways, it's just like, yo, I saw your video, like it was really funny. And I look back and I didn't think it was that funny, but people really liked it, and like people started saying stuff about him that I didn't even know. I'm just like, wow. Like people started saying like, yeah, the guy only does it for money, and I'm just like, dang, like that's tough. And then some of his friend, like his friend actually told me that, like a good friend of his told me like, yeah, he only does it for money. And so I was like obviously shocked by that. And then people told me to make another video, and I wasn't really thinking about it. But once I saw like I think like a month passed, and then he made his video about me, and I thought it was funny, like I said. And I was thinking about making a second one, but then I just ended up not.
Hmm.
And then now, like I look at his videos now, like I mean, they're literally all just about cars, and so I mean, there's nothing really to make fun of. But yeah.
I mean, is he keeping his views, or is he starting to stagnate, or is he
Uh,
lower?
from what I saw, I mean, I don't really keep up with his channel anymore, but from what I saw, I mean, it's like up and down.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't checked out his channel in like a long ass time, but I mean, yeah.
All right. Well, hear it here first, guys. I am not doing this for the money yet. I'm just doing this because I got nothing better to do, and I've always wanted to make a podcast where I can just hear people. Or I've always wanted. I was always wanted to listen to podcasts where I can just hear people talk and not have to look at the screen. I could just play video games, so I'm listening to a podcast about people talking about stuff. And I feel like there's. I mean, of course, there's a lot of those, but I just wanted to make one of my own.
Yeah,
Um,
I love listening to podcasts.
yeah.
I would like to make one of my own, but I mean, I don't know. I don't honestly, I don't think I would have the time. But I mean, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, it's not that difficult, honestly. You just gotta. Well, I'm pretty sure you already have this, but like editing software and you know, a platform to record your stuff on and have it shown to people.
Hmm.
Of course, you know that already, but
Yeah.
it's honestly not that difficult once you get started. I think the hardest part, honestly, is getting a co-host. It's for me, it's so difficult to actually find a co-host for some reason. You'd think it'd be like, oh yeah, I want to be on the YouTube channel, I want to be on the podcast, but it's hard because people forget, people don't schedule things, people hop on and hop off randomly. Um, it's it's surprising.
Yeah, like when I like or like when I saw that, like I think I have you. Yeah, like I added you on Snapchat, and I just knew you from the class that we had.
Yeah.
And then that's when Ari like said like, oh, uh, go like watch those guys' podcasts, and I was just like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then I started listening to it, and then that's when I like, he's just like, does anybody want to be a co-host? And I'm just like, that would be cool, but I don't know if I would do it. But then I thought about it, and I'm just like, I'm hella bored in quarantine, and so I must just say fuck it, and then we're here now.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, we get a little off topic, but back to the whole beef thing. Uh, I've only had one real beef. I don't really let beef start. I kind of just shut things down before they ever get started, especially since I usually see things before they happen or before most people do. Um, but this beef was just unavoidable. There was nothing I could do. It was just a matter of disrespect towards me that I could do nothing about.
Hmm.
And I talked about that in my previous podcast, but I'll reiterate it here. So basically, I had my first girlfriend, 8th grade, blah blah blah. We loved each other until we broke up. Obviously, you don't really, looking back on it, you never really expect a relationship in the 8th grade to last.
Hmm.
But you know, it really broke my heart. She was my first love. Um, so I, go about my life essentially. It broke my heart, but it's time to keep going. Uh, the reason she broke up with me was because she was going to go to the Detroit Institute of Arts high school, which I was pretty sure she was going to, but apparently when she said when she broke up with me, that was pretty premature of her to do because her parents just said, no, you're not going to go. I'm not driving you all the way down to Detroit every single day. You know, um, she lives the neighborhood right across from me,
Hmm.
which is Belleville. But I and so I see her at orientation, freshman year, freshman orientation, and I just freak out. I'm like, I thought I could move on. I thought it was over with. But it wasn't. And so I talked to her, or at least I text her, and I'm like, so what's going on? What's up with us? and she's pretty much, let's just talk, once volleyball season is over so I can focus on volleyball right now. And I'm like, okay, And so it was pretty anxiety inducing to have the, essentially someone who you thought was the love of your life in front of you, not together, but possibly together. And you don't know what's going to happen. And so I just waited, and I bid my time. I, tried to avoid her, to just keep my emotions intact, and just stay calm. But it was my freshman year homecoming, which I heard was the most wild homecoming out of all the ones that I've, been here to possibly participate in. Like I heard people were like having sex like on the dance floor. It was I didn't see it, I wasn't there, but that's what I've heard, stuff like that. But I was talking to my best friends at the time, and I asked them, so what'd you guys do at homecoming? They were like, oh yeah, it's crazy, bro. It was crazy. Just we were just talking, bantering back and forth while we were playing Xbox, and they were talking about how people were getting twerked on. And I asked them, did you get twerked on? And my friend says, yeah. And I say, by who? And he says my ex's name. And I just stopped everything that I was doing right there, and I was just silent for a good 5 minutes. And I don't think that registered with them, what was going through my mind. But then I just turned off my Xbox, and I can't even, honestly, I think I must have like blacked out or something, because I couldn't tell you what happened next. But I was just, I don't know. I was just like, I went dark for a second. But basically, next thing I remember, or, sequentially the next thing I remember, I was pretty angry and upset about that. To do something like that is very disrespectful, especially since you knew, that was my ex and that I loved her, and you did that. That's very, very, very disrespectful. On both sides, for my ex to do that to me and for my friend to do that to me as well. I was very angry with both of them. I was super angry. If I was there, I probably would have, just fought my friend right there. But, luckily I wasn't. So I first I tried, to salvage what just happened, and I tried to, express how I'm feeling and what I feel and how that's messed up and how messed up things are. And my friend, he wasn't taking it seriously, apparently, because next thing I know, he's talking to everybody and making jokes about how I want to kill myself because he did this and I did this and stuff like that, And so I talked to him again, and I'm just like, what you're doing is disrespectful. That's not cool. You need to go talk to those people and, get them to shut up about this sort of stuff. It's not even their business. That's not their business at all. And, he was like, okay, it seemed like he didn't care. Like it was just a joke to him. And keep in mind, I consider these dudes like my brothers, man. Like, the guy I'm talking about, I had been friends with him ever since the first grade. Like, we were best friends, man.
Damn.
But he wasn't who I thought he was, And so, I eventually realized, I'm not going to let myself I'm not going to disrespect myself and let somebody disrespect me at the same time. And so I just cut him off completely. I just stopped talking to him. I decided not to have any beef with him. I just cut him off. So I I just eliminated him from my life. I blocked him on my phone. I didn't talk. Well, I didn't block him on my phone. I just stopped talking to him, and eventually he got the hint. You know, I I just stopped. I didn't care to talk to him anymore. I wasn't going to waste my time with him. Waste my good my waste myself with him. I wasn't going to sit here and let myself what I considered to be a very good person, very wholesome. Well, I wouldn't say wholesome, but very genuinely good person, whole person, to sit around that. So I left. I just packed up my bags and left essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still friends with my other best friend who was with me at the time. And I left him too, but that wasn't really a beef. It was more like me just deciding not to be disrespected anymore. Same deal, but on a much smaller scale. But that wasn't the beef. My beef was with my ex. I concentrated a lot of my just anger and emotion towards her. Like a lot of it. Probably much more than I should have. And things would probably be a lot different now if I didn't. But I did. And, it got to the point where I was seething with hatred for her. Like, I don't use the word hate. Like, I use it lightly, casually. But when I say hate, I really do mean hate this time. Like, by definition, hatred. Like, I wanted her to die.
My God.
And for a long time, I was really justified with my hatred, I guess you could still say that I am justified with my hatred, but I've decided to forgive her, I've had her on the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard that.
I forgave her. I've moved on, and I'm trying to heal, what I can with her,
Mm-hmm.
I realize that, people change and that people aren't always the same as they once were, and it's not, or it is fair to, hold people accountable, but yet at the same time you got to realize, they're different now. And so I realized that, and I just let it all go. And it feels amazing. Let me tell you, it feels amazing to not have, hatred, carrying all that hatred. She didn't really have any beef with me. She was very apologetic, but if you listen to the podcast where I talk about her the most, she didn't get it all the way until recently, until about 6 months ago, which I would consider recently relative to what's been going on, seeing how it's been, I don't know, like 3 years at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, now my goal is to just heal, what I can with her, start something new. I'm not trying to date her again right now. I still do have love for her, love her. She was the first person I ever loved. She's imprinted herself onto my mind and my heart. But I have a girlfriend of my own now. I love her very much. I love her way more than I love my ex. It's just, it is what it is. I just want to be friends now. I want to start healing. I feel like I've missed my opportunity too many times, and I want to salvage what I can. Well, I didn't necessarily miss my opportunity, but if I took that opportunity, things wouldn't be as good. So I mean, yeah, I've only had one real beef. There's always been these miniature beefs, I've had with my friends or whatever, but we make up eventually. Besides the beef I had with my brother. But yeah, I mean, I guess another thing with beefs is drama,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too keen with the drama outside of my class. So I don't know about the drama with seniors or sophomores or freshmen. Besides what I hear my sister over talk, or besides what I hear, maybe one of my few lowerclassmen or upperclassmen friends say. Um, but yeah, the thing about drama though is that it leads to fights, and I
Mm-hmm.
guess it's a little bonus topic. But ever been in a fight before?
Yeah, multiple.
All right. Do you care to talk about them? Or you
Um,
can choose the ones you want to talk about if you want to talk about any of them.
Personally, I don't feel comfortable talking
Yeah,
about it.
I get it.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
sorry.
it's all right. I'll talk about. I mean, I've never been in a fight before. Um, Mainly because the people who were going to fight me usually backed down, or just the situation just de-escalated.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been very close before. The first time I almost got into a fight was actually during summer camp, when I was in this when I was in a summer camp, and this dude named Gabe um, was said something mean to my sister, and it really hurt her feelings or something. But when I
Mm-hmm.
look back on it, I was like, it wasn't really worth fighting over. It was something really dumb. But I was like really angry for some reason, and I was like threatening to fight him, and nothing happened. I obviously I would have crushed him if we did fight, but we didn't fight. The counselors obviously got intervened. Another thing is, I almost got into a fight during sixth grade camp. I know you said you came here seventh grade, so you missed sixth grade camp. But we have sixth grade camp where we go to like a YMCA camp for a week, and we do camp in cabins and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but our counselors uh, were these two seniors. Or one was a senior and one was a junior, and they had like this fight club, and I remember it was so fun. But we would have we were where like they would like pit us against each other. We would like actually like punch each other and actually like fight. Not just wrestle. We would actually fight, and
Wow.
it got them suspended because they were like posting it on Snapchat and whatever. But it was fun. They wanted me to fight, but I was like, nah. Um, Another time was during sixth grade. It was actually Halloween of sixth grade. Uh, my friend, the one that I shut down my beef with, I just abandoned. We were telling yo mama jokes to each other, and this one kid said something completely inaudible to both of us. Like we both just didn't know what he said. It must have been a yo mama joke or something. I don't know. It's something, but my friend turns to him and says, "Oh yeah, or your mom," or something like that, but like very aggressively, like he meant it, like he wasn't joking. And so the dude just walks away calmly, and he comes back with like four dudes, and it's just me and my one really scrawny friend at the time, and me and this other and my other friend, and we just stared him down. Like luckily nothing happened. We probably we probably would have gotten destroyed, seeing how it was like 2.5 against 4. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, luckily nothing happened there. Another time is actually I managed to avoid almost getting into a fight, but freshman year, this kid was in my business about me and my ex, and was making jokes about it and saying I wanted to kill myself and stuff. And I didn't appreciate that too much. And I was legit going to just fight him. I was just going to crush him. I was just going to crush him. You know, I know I sound like very, very overly confident when I say I'm going to crush him, but if you've seen me, you know, I'm pretty muscular. You know, I'm very well built. I wrestle. I can bench like 225 pounds. You know, that's way above average, especially for someone of my height.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So I would have crushed him. I would have just like stomped him out. You know, what is he gonna do? But I didn't. Luckily, you know, probably would have been a bad idea to do that. And then sophomore year, there's this I talked about it in my last podcast, but the same Gabe that I was going to fight earlier, I was going to fight for real this time on behalf of my friend, because they had some sort of sexual meetup or something, and he like exposed her or something stupid. I don't even know anymore. But that really rubbed me the wrong way, and I was gonna fight him on her behalf. You know, I was just gonna like, you know, pull up. I'm going to kill you. You know, I'm gonna beat your ass. And so, you know, my ex, who I talked to, but eventually stopped talking to, and then I talked to her again. You know, convinced me not to do that, saying that it wasn't really worth it, and that wasn't going to accomplish anything. And my dad pretty much said the same thing. You know, he was like, you know, I'm not going to condone you fighting, but I understand if you do. But he convinced me not to do it. Another thing, sophomore year, and this is probably the closest I've ever been that was out of my control, or nearly out of my control, of fighting somebody. But it was art class, not freshman year, first semester. And there was this dude named Justin. And he was definitely bigger than me. I don't know if I would have beat him in a fight or not. I mean, I can't say I would or would not have. You know, nothing happened. But I made a joke to him. You know, first I like called him out. I was like, "Hey, Justin, what are you doing over here, man?" Because I was just talking to him like jokingly. And he was like, "Are you talking to me?" I was like, "Yeah." And then I made a joke about how he looked like an orangutan or something as a joke. And like, that, it really took him the wrong way, apparently, because like, he was like, "No, you must not be talking to me." And I was like, "Yes, I am. I'm talking to you." And he was like, "So you want to fight?" And that caught me off guard. I was not expecting that. And I was like, "Okay, I see what's going on." And so I de-escalated, and I was like, "Nah, I don't want to fight, man." And he was like, "Yeah, that's what I thought." And I was just like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." But everybody was just like staring at me and him. They were like in shock, you know. They weren't expecting that to happen. You know, they were pretty much in a joking mood like I was, but apparently he wasn't. Like he, if I had said yes, you know, things obviously would have gone down very differently, I think. But it was looking back on it, it was pretty funny seeing how it was just like, how did I end up here? You know, I was talking about it with my friends. They all thought it was funny how it was just like this rapid escalation of nothing into something. But yeah, you know, he was cool with me later. You know, we're cool now. I don't really talk to him, but we're cool.
Yeah.
And then the most recent time I was gonna fight, we were actually all the wrestlers were just gonna jump the basketball team. Actually, yeah, we were all just gonna jump the basketball team, because one of my friend, I'm pretty sure he doesn't want me saying his name, but he got jumped by this dude named JB. Like, he went into it was after practice, you know, so we're all super tired. You know, we all been wrestling, we're all sore and stuff like that. But we're not, you know, super sore, seeing how we've been, you know, conditioned and stuff like that. And he went into like, because he used to be a manager for the basketball team before he decided to just do wrestling. And so he went into the varsity basketball team's locker room. And they were joking with him at first. They were like, beating up on him a little bit as a joke, and he was taking it in good spirits. But then they got serious all of a sudden. Like, they were like this dude named JB. They started hitting him hard. Like, not JB, but my friend. They were hitting him hard. Like, he thinks he got knocked unconscious, but he can't really say if he did or did not because it was so quick. But like, they turned off the lights and they were just hitting him. They were just going at him,
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was almost like a gang initiation sort of thing. It was kind of brutal the way he described it. But then one of the wrestlers named Taco, he looked in there and he was like, "Oh my God, such and such is on the floor," and we were all just like talking because Taco, if you know him, he's like a boy who cried wolf. He's very
Yeah, I know who he is. Yeah.
he's very I guess I could say he over exaggerates a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all thought he was just like saying something. No one was really paying attention to him. But then this kid named Devin comes out and he's like, "Oh yeah, we did that. And then one of us checks and we actually see, my friend on the floor. It looks like knocked unconscious. And none of us were happy about this. And we were all like, yeah, let's just go in there and fight him. We were all just going to jump the basketball team, just like that. Like, we were so on board with it. But before anything got started, Coach Chapman came and intervened. And I don't really. It was a pretty disappointing solution to the problem. Seeing how Coach Chapman just intervenes after some kid just got jumped, and all he does is make JB apologize. But Blake, he's the top wrestler in our group. Was like, yeah, I'm just gonna fight JB, and we're all like, yeah, let's just go in there and fight all the basketball players. And we outnumber the basketball players. I wouldn't say heavily, but I think it might be like a 3-2 sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have definitely won. They're definitely taller, but we're actually wrestlers, and it's a martial art, and each of us, are pretty strong.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a disappointing end to it, but who knows what would have happened if we actually did fight. We probably all would have gotten, well, I don't know. I think the coaches would have tried to keep it under wraps, especially Chapman and, what's his name, Trumpor. I think they try to keep it under wraps, especially from the school. But those are all the times I've almost gotten into a fight. I don't know if that's a lot or a little. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I think I still do want to fight somebody. I don't want to get into like a fight to the point where things get dangerous for somebody. Whether I'm wounding somebody to the point where they got to go to the hospital. But I think I'd like to get into a fight sometime. It's just a matter of I need a reason to actually get into a fight.
Yeah, there's like a scratching noise. It's like in the audio.
So, I mean, I think the podcast is about to be like 2 out. It's going to be like 2 hours.
Wait, hold up. I can't hear you right now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So, this podcast is about 2 hours long. I try to keep it about 2 hours. So I think it's about time we wrap things up. Thank you for being on the podcast. You've said you've listened to other episodes. I don't know how far you've listened into them, but at the end of the podcast, I like to, say something, just a phrase, or a statement, just something, at the end of my podcast. So I remember, the last one, my co-host said that dogs were man's best friend. And the previous one, I said try to take cold showers. And the one before that, I said try cereal with apple juice. But I try to let my co-host have the honors. Is there anything? Is there anything? Just anything that comes to mind that you'd like to say? It doesn't even have to be related to anything. Just something.
Don't have intercourse with animals.
All right, don't have intercourse with animals. You're
Yeah,
here
I feel
to
like that's a good one.
2020. All right. Thanks for being on the podcast, bro.
Yeah, no problem. If you
All
need
right.
me
See
for
ya.
anything else, just hit me up.
All right. No problem. See ya.
All right, peace.
Peace.